Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, Roth Motor City Madmouth, and tonight is our Super Bowl edition of the Sports Exchange. And just so you know, folks, you can find the Sports Exchange if you on simulcast, as we have it on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, wherever you get your podcast. And you can also find it on our YouTube channel as well. Go to YouTube and hit South Florida Tribune, subscribe, and that's all you need to do. Also, you can find it on www.southfloridatribune.com. Well, we have a new guy here tonight, Kevin Wenke. And Kevin, give the audience a little overview about yourself real quickly, because we have a lot of business to take care of tonight.
Yeah, sure. Scott asked me to be on this when I was 99.9% confident that my Buffalo Bills were going to be in the Super Bowl. But here I am. I'm still repping my team. I'm here to talk about the teams that are in there, the Rams. Who are the teams in there? What's that other team? Bengals, I guess. I don't know. This Burrow guy, this Joe guy. I like him, by the way. He is good. I like him. I've been watching him since that guy at UCF spit on him. That's an impressive thing. So I'm ready to go. It's the best week of the year. It's the biggest holiday in my calendar. Not Christmas, definitely not Easter. Not my birthday. It's Super Bowl Sunday. So let's roll with this.
Very good. Well, just so you know, I met Kevin Wenke at Gold Coast School of Insurance as my instructor. And when I saw the passion that he had for sports, well, I knew I promised him a spot on the Sports Exchange of delivering that. He also has a book that we talked about before. Won't get to it tonight. Just to let Kevin know who his teammates are. Obviously, Mr. Opinion, Rick Curti, Mr. Patriot, Steve Balestrieri, and the man who played the game, Mel Farr Jr. That's what we've got to work with tonight. With that said, okay, we are talking about the Super Bowl. I'll lay it out there for you, put some facts out there, and everybody gets an opportunity for their observations. Joe Burrow will be looking to be the first quarterback to win college football's national title, Heisman Trophy, and Super Bowl. He could win actually comeback player of the year because he sustained a season-ending injury in 2020. Now, I've had an opportunity to sit in a lot of the media availabilities, and there's no question that this guy certainly is a pretty cool individual. Now, just Joe Cool, they call him. Well, when you see him and you have a chance to observe him, you can appreciate that. And I'm going to have a little bit of fun with social media, then we're going to get to it, okay? Just to show you the differences between Matt Stafford and Joe Burrow. And I'm only talking Instagram, okay, and only this one. Joe Burrow has 2.5 million followers on Instagram, 135 posts, and follows 791 people. Matthew Stafford, on the other hand, no posts, 2,459 followers, which I'm one of them. Okay. And he's not following anybody. But here's the little carrot. Okay. This Kelly Stafford has 2,887 posts, 339,000 followers, and 1,729 people that she's following. Can only imagine. So you talk about a difference in personalities on Instagram, and I don't do a whole lot with it, but I get my information out of it every so often when I need to see it in visual format. I'll take this a little step further, okay? The Rams are trying to win a Super Bowl in now two cities. They pulled the trick in St. Louis. The Bengals are 0-2 in both of their appearances against the San Francisco 49ers. If that wasn't good enough, I'll give you a little bit more, and then we're going to go right to it, okay? Matthew Stafford would join Eli Manning as the only quarterbacks to lead the league in interceptions during the regular season and still win a Super Bowl. Can you believe that? I'm not so sure that that's something I'd be overly proud of, but let's break down the particulars, okay? In 2007, Eli Manning had 20 interceptions, and of course, Stafford, okay, in 2021, we know he's had 17. We'll talk about the age differences in the quarterbacks. Joe Burrow is all of 25, and Stafford's 34. And I know a lot of people would say he's on house money with his first appearance in the Super Bowl, but it's not so easy to get back to a Super Bowl as so many quarterbacks have found out. One of the ones I like to pick on here because good old Kevin's on is Dan Marino. No, I'm not going to get into a Dan Marino debate, but for all you Dolphins, sorry, Dan, we all thought you got there at an early age and really expect him to get there a whole lot more. Unfortunately, it never really worked out. And the real last nugget I want to throw out there, the two head coaches, Zach Taylor is 38 against Sean McVay, 36. Both have coached 74 years, 299 days old, and they're the youngest combined age for opposing head coaches in Super Bowl history. Now, can I give you a lot more info? Yeah. Do I want to lose you? No. Okay. But this will kind of whet your appetite a little bit. So you take your notepad and paper out there. and get a handle on this. So with that said, okay, what I'm going to do is point out to each and every one of you so y'all have a chance to talk about it. And we'll, as we go deeper into the broadcast, we'll be able to go further than that. Well, we have the new kid on the block, Mr. Wenke. I know that it breaks your heart. The Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen aren't in there, but we have to focus on the game at hand.
Yes.
Okay. Who will win and why?
Well, I'm going to say that Los Angeles is going to win this game. And I really think that their defense they've just got the best defense. And we watched what happened during the Tennessee game with the protection that he had or Joe Burrows did. What was it? Nine sacks. And you're going to have these guys running after him like crazy. And then the offense that Los Angeles is going to have is going to far outpace what Tennessee was able to do. I mean, Derrick Henry was not at 100% yet. I mean, first game back, I know it was a gallant effort, but he was kind of a non-factor in that game. And the boy there from Miami he just couldn't perform. I know, when he was there, he just never was able to do it. And 3 picks. I kind of lost the game for Tennessee. I don't see Los Angeles doing this. I see Los Angeles just being terrorizing offense of Cincinnati's. And Joe's going to still give it a go, but I just don't see them overcoming that. And I see defense winning championships.
Well, there's no question that was not one of Ryan Tannehill's better acts for sure, but they still have a little bit of confidence in him enough that they're not looking to bring Aaron Rodgers in. I think the Titans really like Ryan Tannehill, but on that day against Joe Burrow, it was not meant to be, right, Steve Balestrieri?
No, I thought Tennessee would win because of the fact that, they have Derrick Henry, and even though Cincinnati, I think they ended up the season number 5 against the run this year, but I just thought they'd be able to run the football. Derrick Henry wasn't himself. I give the Bengals a lot of credit, but looking at this game, it's the easy pick because the Rams are the sexy pick in this game. But when you look at it in the trenches, I think that's where the difference lies. That Rams defensive line is really, really good, and Cincinnati's offensive line, is not. That's something they need to really beef up. They have the weapons on offense. If Burrow has time to throw the football, I mean, he can light it up against anybody. And in fact, in this game, I would look for them to attack the middle of the field a lot. I think that's where they have to go in this. But, even against the Kansas City Chiefs, we heard a lot after the game. Well, he was only sacked 1 time. But if you watch the game tape, I think he was pressured on like 50% of his dropbacks. I might be off on that. I'd have to look it back up. But he was running for his life a lot back there, and he was making plays. But you can't expect to do that in the Super Bowl. I mean, you can do it on occasion, but if you're doing it on every drop back, it's going to end up costing you against a really good secondary. And I think the Rams have that. So in this game, I'm with Kevin there. I like the Rams in this one. I think their offense is tough to stop. They don't really have much of a running game going, but I like the Rams in this one.
All right, give me a rough idea how.
Score wise?
Yeah.
I think I still think it's going to be close, but I think the Rams will win. I'm looking at somewhere in the vicinity of 28-17.
All right, Kevin, why don't we backtrack with you a little bit? Give me a score.
35-13.
Oh, wow, you have them winning decisively.
Yeah.
All right, yeah. Mr. Opinion, I'm sure you've had a chance to digest these two.
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Los Angeles, so everyone expects I'm rooting for the Rams. I mean, I have the Rams winning. I mean, it's in Los Angeles. I just think Stafford is just. I mean, he's been waiting so many years for this after being bashed for so many years with the Lions, and now he's got weapons and he's made most of it. I like Burrow, but he's young. The only pick I had going in was the Tennessee one. I had Cincinnati winning that game. I'm just not a big fan of Tennessee with Tannehill, and Henry was very, very rusty. So, but I didn't have them going all this way, to be quite honest. And a lot of people I know want the Bengals because they're the big underdog. They're the Rocky, and the Rams are like Durago from Russia, and so the odds are against them. They love the story, but I'm gonna go with the Rams. I just think this is just Stafford's year. He's finally got the weapons. He's looked great, and I have them winning 38-24.
All right, Mr. UCLA Bruin, Mel Farr Jr.
Yeah, I have emotional reasons. I would like to see both teams win. The biggest thing, as far as the Rams, I'd like to see the Rams win because maybe that a light will go off with the because we're from Detroit. Maybe a light will go off with the Lions, and they'll realize that we had this guy here. All we needed to do is surround him with some talent, and he could take us to the promised land. Matthew Stafford. I mean, he's just what is he, just a little over a year ago that they made that big trade, and look where he is at now. He's playing on the biggest stage that there is in professional football. So, obviously for that reason, I would like for the Rams to win. I like Aaron Donald to have an opportunity to win a championship. And then, I lived in Cincinnati for 4 years, and my oldest child's godfather is in the Cincinnati Bengals organization. He's been with the Bengals since he was drafted in 1989 with the Bengals. He played with them. He was drafted in the second round. Then he moved up into the front office. He's like a player liaison. He's from Michigan. And, we've known each other for, I don't know how many years. I'm his son's godfather, Eric Ball. So, I have emotional reasons why I'd like for each team to win. But, the Rams defense, and you talk about the Tennessee game and what Tennessee was able to do and how many times they were able to get them on the ground. And you look at the Kansas City game, and you look how many times they had Joe Burrow in the grass, but they just couldn't get him down to the ground. I think that the Rams will be able to get him down to the ground. I'm not going to say that they'll rattle him because I don't think Joe Burrow was one of those kind of guys that gets rattled. But I think it will probably hurry him. It'll probably rush him, and it'll cause him to have some turnovers. I don't think it's going to be a blowout as Kevin believes. But I think the Rams will win comfortably. I think the score will be 31-21.
All right, let me add some things to it that I've acquired during the media availabilities, and I've been on a lot of them. So I'm going to do some player dropping out there. At the Aaron Donald media availability just a little while ago, he was really delighted with the addition of A'Shawn Robinson, another guy that could clog up that middle, and said that the progression that A'Shawn has made, yet another former Lion, I might add, out of Alabama, who was unfortunately injured when he was in Detroit, is a guy that is like night and day. So when you talk about Von Miller, and then you talk about Aaron Donald, and then you have A'Shawn Robinson, that's pretty dangerous in its own right.
Yeah, Floyd, right? Who's the other outside linebacker? Floyd.
Yeah, Floyd.
Right.
He's out of Georgia, played with Chicago, and then resurrected his career out there with the Rams.
Well, everybody seems to be doing that. So, but then let me go out there and mention a couple of other names. Steve and Mel remember this name real well last night, but Coach Eric Yarber, the wide receivers coach, who I know is 58 years of age for the Rams, everybody thought that Odell Beckham was a reclamation project. And you know what? Odell Beckham needed to get out of Cleveland, spend a little bit of time hanging out with Coach Yarber, and realize that he just fit in with this group and put his ego aside and seems to be blending in real well. So it's amazing how you can have a couple little basic additions here and the impact that these individuals can make on a team with a change of scenery, change of culture, and so forth. And that's what I've noticed. Now, the thing that's equally impressive about this matchup is we know that Zach Taylor coached under Sean McVay 4 years ago. And when they, at that last Super Bowl, the Rams and the Patriots, and found himself on the plane the next day, taking the Rams job. And the one thing he mentioned at his media availability today was load management. These guys are pretty healthy at this point in time for a reason. One, they know when to put their foot on the gas to practice hard, and then they let up at certain points. And when you talk about some of the little idiosyncrasies involved with putting these teams on, those are some interesting dynamics. But Mel, anybody know about load management? It would be you.
Well, one of the things the Rams have done is they're one of the least injured teams in the last 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. And they actually count their players' steps. So then that way they know how to practice with the players. So each one of the players has some type of GPS unit attached to them. So they have somebody that monitors their steps so they know what they can do with them in practice. They know, certain amount. So, whatever they're doing after practice and so forth and so on, they make sure that, hey, this is what you guys need to do in order to stay healthy. And they're one of the healthiest teams the last 5 years in the league because of some of the things that they do.
What do you want to add to that, Kevin?
Well, there's the same thing they were saying about the Bills, the Buffalo Bills. And that's all I can relate to. Bills weren't very hurt this year either. And one of the things that they were talking about in the news here is that they did not do any squats during the season. And now, as somebody that works out all the time, squats are hard. They're tough. I mean, they're a full body workout. And they decided that, from whatever analytics they use, that was too much of a load to go in and play this year they played 19 or 20 games or what, right? 20 games is where they're at right now if they're in the Super Bowl. The Rams and the Cincinnati have played 20 games this year. That makes sense. Do the squats during the off season, build the muscle, build the thing, but then keep the stuff that's limber, keep you flexible during the year. And that can help you keep going. That just makes a lot of sense to me.
I remember John Robinson when we played, practice. He always wanted to get you on your feet, get off your feet. You want you to limit the amount of time that we're on your feet. And I want to say practices were no more than an hour and 15 minutes long. But everything, you're getting everything done because everything's done at a rapid pace. There's no wasted time when you're on the field. When you're on the field, we're working. Get off the field, get off your feet. That was his big thing, get off your feet. And then we did a lot of, for most of the year, and it's become kind of taboo now, we didn't practice with full pads on all the time. I mean, we did shorts and shoulder pads, and shorts and shoulder pads is really like full pads because back then most guys didn't wear pads in their pants anyway. But it was always a thud kind of practice. And so you first 3 steps are going hard, and then whoever, if it's an offensive drill, then you let the offensive guy win. If it's a defensive drill, first 3 steps hard, let the defensive guy win. Nobody falls to the ground. That's when you get hurt. When people fall on the ground, they roll up on your leg. You take care of one another. That's the thing you'd always talk about. Take care of each other. So if somebody feels like they're about to fall down, make sure you don't let them fall down because it might fall down into somebody else's leg. So it's very important so that these guys are fresh because, you got to understand these guys have been at it since the latter part of July, first part of August. And I can remember, after the NFC Championship game that we played, and then we ended up losing. And then 2 days later, I had surgery, and then I went back home. And I just remember being so tired, man. We played 5 preseason games that year. We were a wild card team. We did a lot of traveling, and we went over to, I think we went to Japan that year. And I was kind of, obviously I wanted to win the game and go to the Super Bowl, but I was kind of relieved that I didn't have that same, get up early in the morning, go to practice. I mean, I was really physically and mentally drained. And I know how these guys are feeling right now. I mean, it's going to take everything that they have in them to get out there and perform for this game because it's been a long, long season. And especially, everybody's hurt right now. Everybody's got some little nagging injury that's bothering them that they want to get taken care of. And, taking care of their bodies throughout the course of the year is a huge, huge deal.
Yeah, Aaron Donald mentioned that during his media availability. He talks about that they go through so much, not only with the OTAs, but when you go to training camp, you play these preseason games and all the practices.
Training camp's a cakewalk now compared to
it is.
How training camp was when I was playing.
Well, I remember that because I've been covering the league for the better part of 40 years too. I mean, I started with the Miami Dolphins, worked my way over to the Detroit Lions, done some stuff with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, I definitely understand how a tough training camp is, but you also have to remember though, that these players are much bigger than they were back then too. So they're much bigger, stronger, but yet the physicality of the sport being what it is. But what Donald was prefacing today was, we need to finish the job because of what we go through throughout the course of the year. It's a year-round deal now with OTAs. Yeah, are they softening up in some areas? Yeah, but there's still an awful lot of work, a lot of competition for these jobs. And if you come up short finishing second, everything you've done all year, you almost feel like it's like having a balloon burst with a pin is really what it is.
And there's no guarantee you'll get back there.
Oh, no, that's true. I mean, how many guys have made it one time? You live for the moment, one time, and you hope to get back there. You don't take anything for granted. If you get back to a second Super Bowl, that's unbelievable. But getting there one time, I can
look at a guy like Tom Brady who's been there 10 times.
Yeah, and then you talk about my buddy Dan Marino, been there once, and yet, and with no disrespect to Dan Marino, I've always felt that he's one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen during his prime. I don't care about the passing stats nowadays because they're so exaggerated because of the way the rules are. But Dan Marino, to his credit, had one of the quickest releases I've ever seen and beat blitzes real well. So his 60,000 yards to me would be the equivalent to 90,000 these days because of the way the man played the game. But, as I continue to talk to players all week, and let me tell you, the Cincinnati Bengals are very respectful of that defensive front that you have for the Rams. They know that, but what are you going to do? I mean, you have yourself Von Miller into the equation. Aaron Donald's a beast. Ashawn Robinson, and then you mentioned the other guy. And yet Matthew Stafford's hungry. He's obviously, we mentioned in a previous broadcast, being the Rodney Dangerfield because he doesn't get any respect. And then you got Joe Burrow being Rocky Balboa. I mean, this thing sets up very, very nicely. So with that said, let me ask each and every one of you to predict an MVP. We'll start with you, Mel. Who do you think will be the most likely MVP in a game like this?
It seems like it's always been the quarterback. That's what the focus has been on. And that is what the focus is on. And, if the Rams win, I'd like for Matt Stafford to be the MVP again, just so maybe the Lions will take a self-analysis and look at themselves like, man, where did we go wrong? I mean, how did we go wrong here? I mean, we had the right guy, and somehow, some way, we didn't surround him with the proper talent, the proper coaching, the proper environment, whatever the case may be. We didn't get it done, and we had every opportunity. We had the same opportunity as the Rams to get it done, and we just didn't get it done. So, more than likely, I would say if the Rams go ahead and win, that it would probably that Matthew Stafford would probably be MVP.
Rick?
Yeah, I have Stafford as MVP. He's usually an offensive player getting it. If it's a low scoring game, and they really shut down the Bengals, probably Donald could get it, but most likely it's always an offensive player. So I have Stafford. And for the Lions, Mel, it's the ownership. The Fords are a terrible ownership family. They just don't know what they're doing. They seem to keep getting in their way.
You don't have to tell me. You don't have to convince me.
They're terrible. I mean, they need to sell them and put it with someone who knows what they're doing. But that's the Fords. That's the problem with the Lions.
Kevin, you have an opinion about MVP?
All right, so I'm going to piggyback off of the fact of having less stress on your body. And the guy who's going to excel in this, Eric Weddle. The guy has had very few snaps in the last 2 years. He's going to be fresh. I just see him all over the field.
That's a different perspective, but
there you go.
But you know what? That's great.
Hey, let's keep it unique, right?
He is fresh.
He's fresh. He's going to be.
He was retired.
Definitely fresh.
He's going to be like Superman in the first movie, man, running around that field.
All right, Steve, what do you think?
Cooper Kupp.
Okay.
I think he's had a phenomenal season. He might end up actually being the MVP for the league for the regular season. But, I look at the way the Rams use him. They put him in the slot a lot of the times, and you give him the option of going left or right. It puts such a stress on the Bengals or anyone's slot corner. And I think that's a huge mismatch in this game. I think Cooper Kupp, and the only way I was just writing about this too. It'll come out tomorrow, but the only way I see the Bengals slowing them down is to drop 8 guys into coverage and take away some of those short, slant routes and the crossers. And the things the Rams like to do, but I see Cooper Kupp having a huge game in this. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him go on 140 or more yardage in this one. So he's my guy. I'm going with.
All right, I want to throw a couple of things out there that would be really intriguing because you never know what you can find out. Before we came on here tonight, I had the good fortune of talking to Brandon Powell, an undrafted free agent from the University of Florida, who obviously made the Lions as an undrafted free agent, and then eventually has moved around the league, and he's full circle with the Rams again. And the first touch he had against Jacksonville was a punt return for a touchdown. So I'm going to throw a couple of things out there. And again, we're going to have fun with this thing. Naturally, my gut feeling would tell me that Matthew Stafford could very well be the MVP, conventional wisdom. But guys, you never know. If you want to stick it to the Giants and you want to stick it to the Browns, they certainly don't want to see Odell Beckham become the MVP, do they? And now you have to wonder, does Brandon Powell have a Desmond Howard moment or two where he has one or two touchdowns off of special teams? And is there a Santonio Holmes that's going to come out of nowhere, maybe Brandon Powell, that nobody will see coming here, and all of a sudden put themselves on the map? Because I can tell you right now, with Powell, before he got the call from the Rams, he was sitting at home in Florida waiting for the phone to ring. And here's a young kid who's very hungry about where his beginnings are, from Deerfield Beach High School. And I'll tell you, he's a bright young kid who's humbled. So, and of course, we've seen defensive MVPs, what Charles Woodson, I think, played a big role in one of these games before. So it's not uncommon when we talk about Kevin mentioned, and was it Eric Weddle? And
Yes.
if we want some more interesting,
In jest, I say that, of course.
I remember
that's
Larry
okay.
Graham getting it.
Well, and then if we want to add a few more ironies to it, is that Kevin O'Connell will be taking over the Vikings job next week, the same way that Zach Taylor took over the Cincinnati job after he left the Super Bowl. So, there's a lot of interesting ironies that we can throw out there that could go a lot of different directions outside of the obvious ones. And if we're all on, I haven't given you my prediction yet, but I'll do it just to stay consistent. I'm looking at a Rams win like 29-20 or 29-21 with a 2-point play somewhere along the lines. So I think we all believe in the Rams. I'd like to see Stafford get that ring, because I'll tell you what, Stafford gets that ring. There's a lot of quarterbacks that have had one ring, and it places them in a much higher echelon here when it comes to getting in the Hall of Fame. I believe those announcements are going to be made later on. But I've given you guys a lot to bite on here. So we'll lead off with you, Kevin. Okay, we're going a lot of different directions. How are you going to process everything that I've mentioned, and as well as your colleagues tonight?
Meaning what? What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you got a lot of different names outside of Weddle. Is there any other name?
Any other people? I mean, again, I think the defense is going to be the biggest thing for the Rams, and I'm looking at a defensive MVP. I mean, I said Weddle just because it was a joke, because we were talking about stress on a body over 20 games.
Right.
The guy played a couple games, but really, like Darnold or Von Miller or somebody like that could easily be an MVP. Wasn't Von Miller MVP during one of those Super Bowls
Yeah.
for the Broncos
Against the Panthers.
Yeah, he was the MVP, right?
Yep.
I mean, Manning had a really poor game, but the defense won that.
The Panthers had a poor game.
Well, the Panthers, the Von Miller and the defense was a big part of that. But yeah, but anyway, I really feel that that's going to be the differentiating factor for this game. I think that they're missing a couple pieces in Cincinnati. They just happen to put it together and get a run. But I think that those weaknesses show in games like this. And you got how many millions of people? 180 million people are watching, and it's showtime. And these guys have been on the top of their game for years, and they're going to expose the weaknesses. And that's my opinion. I think that the defense is going to have a MVP in this game.
Well, it's interesting. A defensive MVP. You know what? It's not entirely impossible. And I can tell you right now, I remember in this panel here, I was the only one that picked Cincinnati to walk into Kansas City and beat the Bengals. I just had a feeling that No, they didn't beat the Bengals. The Bengals will beat themselves. Just kidding with you guys. I like, Kevin, you're rubbing off but I remember when Cincinnati walked into Arrowhead and beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and how did that turn out? After what were they down by 18 points, and they came back. They don't have any quit to them. Are we really selling the Bengals short in this whole thing? Are we forgetting the fact that Jamar Chase is a heck of a running back? Are we forgetting the fact that Joe Burrow, okay, is a great quarterback? And nothing seems to phase them. As I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, okay, I want to reiterate for those that are joining us a little bit later, okay, that he's looking to become the first quarterback to win the college football national title, Heisman Trophy, and Super Bowl. And we're talking about the comeback player of the year. And who knows? I mean, and I don't even know whether he would be considered an MVP candidate, although I have my thoughts about who would be that, but I don't think Burrow's quite there yet. So that, and think about it. Oh, and the one thing I should point out, which is really interesting about this matchup, ready? The quarterbacks, Matthew Stafford wears number 9, Joe Burrow wears number 9, and two of the best hockey players of all time, Bobby Hall and Gordie Howe, wore number 9.
There you go. There's also more history that this is only the second time that two former number 1 picks are facing each other in the Super Bowl. The other one was Peyton Manning and Cam Newton.
How about that? So
there you go.
Folks, if you're looking to buy lottery tickets, okay, you might want to put 9 to 1 in your thing. Yeah. And if you win, send us an email. I'm not going to stalk you. You earn everything that you ended up earning anyway. So, but the number 9 is I guarantee you one quarterback wearing number 9 will win the game. And it doesn't take a whole lot of rocket scientists to figure that thing out. I wouldn't even get into the trivia questions about that.
And you should get you remember the old Sesame Street when they did that na 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 number 9? You guys remember that at all? Do you remember that stuff from back in the day?
If I did an imitation like you just did, I'd probably be breaking a glass or a Memorex glass.
That's all right, but you remember that. That's my point. I just want to remember if you guys remember that, And it was like all that. It was like the wavy, the 9 would come at you. I mean, this is all when we were like little kids and stuff like that. But man, that's yeah, number 9. See, there you go.
So let's have a few hypotheticals. We got a Bills guy on the other end, and I'm wondering how Josh Allen would have fared with either. Obviously we know.
Now we're talking. All right.
Yeah,
what are we going to talk about now?
Now he's rolling up the sleeves here. Okay, but I don't want to get you too far off base because we have a certain time frame. Okay, but let's just have a little hypothetical. I wonder how Josh Allen would have fared against Matthew Stafford.
Well, I mean, they're not playing against each other in that way. And, but Josh Allen would be able to get away from the defense because he runs from his life too, but that's his strength. And what's his name there? The guy from Jacksonville, that's the defensive back that plays for the Rams now. Just dropped his name. Ramsey. Remember he called him trash.
Yeah.
And remember that? He's that guy's trash. But you know what? Josh Allen, here I'm in Olean right now, just south of Buffalo. And, this guy, he's an inspiration. I mean, this guy is something. I feel for him for losing that game against Kansas City. I mean, he did everything you could possibly have asked. But the thing about him is he's always the same thing. Everybody said he couldn't do it. The whole story about how he sent all those letters to every college, dear coach, I'm a full qualifier. I think I'd be a great fit for your team. And everybody stood him up. And then what is it? Wyoming and Western Michigan said yes, but Western Michigan pulled it because he visited Wyoming and he's at Wyoming. And, he's embedded himself in this community. And there's actually one of my the people I grew up with, son has, leukemia as a 10-year-old, and that Oshie hospital up there in Buffalo where he's made that wing is, he's done great things for that. And he wore Colts shoes during one of the games. So, the guy's great. And I don't think there's anything that guy can't do. And he's gonna do a lot more in the league. Hopefully he does get it to the Super Bowl. And like we were talking about, it's a difficult thing, but today he was on the Jim Rohn show I saw, and he's talking about how he has a very vivid dream about having the parade, which got postponed again until next year. downtown Buffalo, not uptown, downtown Buffalo. And, but how would he do against Matthew Stafford? I think he'd outgun him, and I think he could get away from the defenses. And I think he would, the guys, he'll run over those guys. I remember they played San Francisco last year, and what's the guy from Ohio State? I'm sorry, the names always, I drop the names. What's the guy from Ohio State that plays for
Bosa?
Bosa, yeah. Bosa's like, he was mic'd up, and he's like, look at this guy. He's a horse. I can't bring him down, and yeah, he just runs over people and runs around them, runs over them. And, it's an X factor, So
Well, the thing with
long,
him
long
too
answer
is-
short. Yeah, I think he's amazing.
Yeah,
I'm really
and
proud
the
of him.
thing with him is you can't pin your ears back and try to come after him, because if you give him a crack, he's going to run right by the defensive lineman and he'll run over a linebacker.
Right.
He'll run right over a linebacker.
Well, he'll jump over him. Yeah, like he'll jump over. He'll literally jump over him.
Well, in
And
this
That's,
tournament,
that's
we've-
why I was kind of hoping, and I hope none of the New England fans are listening. I was hoping to see Josh Allen play against Jalen Ramsey. I really wanted to see that because of his comment a couple of years ago. And
did you see the interview after the first time they played? And Jalen Ramsey would just kind of was like not answering you still think he's trash? Well, he did everything he needed to do to win. Yeah. And he just couldn't answer, he's like, dude's tough. And then they played again another time, and I think he lit him up for a couple touchdowns too. So yeah, so all right. So I got my sleeves rolled up. I appreciate you asking me about Josh Allen.
Oh, I had to.
Got a little, my heart's going.
Well, your heart's going and your attire's a little obvious, so I had to give you.
Season starts in 30 weeks. I'm ready.
Listen, folks. I only gave him this opportunity to talk about the Bills because he went out of his way to find that outfit. Now I'm going to get back on the point.
Yeah, I even got
That's
another
right.
Bills shirt on, man.
You got your
believe
Sabres.
that.
You can
I got. Sabres are over there.
That's okay.
Okay.
That's
Well, you
all
got
right.
the Sabres.
But you know what? It's yin and yang with the Sabres.
All right. Well, that's fine.
We're not even going to get into that. All
No,
right.
no, we
Your
don't have the
Buffalo
time
Blue Jays.
anyways. But
Well,
let's
no,
go
we
back
don't.
to the fact that when I've looked at Stafford and I've looked at Burrow, they're both unflappable. Both coaches are unflappable. And Burrow, when he's had to run the football, he would. We saw that Joe Montana-esque move where he ended up throwing that touchdown on his way out of bounds and got rid of it. So you see a lot of interesting moments. We do realize that Matthew Stafford has that gunslinger mentality that, yes, he'll go out there and take that chance. I don't have a problem. I've always said many times, I don't have a problem with the gunslinger approach. I've always thought that Brett Favre was one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. Anyways, and I never played fantasy football back then, and I really could care less about it now. But I wouldn't mind having Brett Favre on a fantasy team, but keeping it back to reality, which is where I want to make sure we stay on track because we have another 5 or 10 minutes to go in the show. And that's this. Are there any particular things? I know I mentioned this earlier, Mel, that you're looking for aside from what we've mentioned that our fans should watch out for?
Watch the trenches. The offensive lines and the defensive lines are for both teams because that's where the game is going to be won. I hope it's another one of those low scoring affairs like we had a couple of years ago where it was it 10-7 or whatever case.
Oh gosh, no, I hope not.
I love good.
It was boring.
Football.
Snooze fest.
I enjoy.
That was one of the worst Super Bowls. Was the Rams and the
Yeah.
Patriots.
I
I'm
might-
sorry, it was
I
awful.
It wasn't from my perspective.
I know you
I'm
loved
sure.
it. It was a snooze fest for me.
So that's where the game is going to be won in the trenches. Obviously, Matthew Stafford, he's got to limit his mistakes. Talk about the gunslinger mentality. He has he does have. He has shown a propensity to throw touchdowns to the other team, so he has to be very careful about that. If you're talking about if Josh Allen was in this game, he's a different type of player. So you had to game plan for him differently. They should be happy that they have Joe Burrow, even though he's proven to be very difficult. More like Big Ben, as far as being able to get him down to the ground. I mean, I've seen the guys where they really had him in a bear hug and couldn't get him down to the ground. Somehow or another, he escaped like Houdini. So he's a tough kid. And I think because of all the time that Matthew Stafford spent in hell in Detroit, that it's gonna help him, to be able to deal with the type of adversity that he's had to deal with year in and year out. I would think probably they go to training camp feeling that they had an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. I mean, I think most teams do. He may not have really thought he had an opportunity to go, but that's the hand that he was dealt, and he had to play that hand. And to be able to mentally do that every year, know that you're probably out of the playoff picture come game 4 and still go out there and play.
Yeah.
That's got to be tough, man. That's got to be tough on you mentally. It's got to be tough on you emotionally. So, I don't expect him to get rattled. I think he can kind of draw from some of that experience from, knowing, when he just, those dark days in Detroit, and he'll be able to do something spectacular. That's why I think he'll win the MVP, because I think he will go out there and he'll play at a level. I think he's gonna play spectacularly, to be honest with you, just because of the experience that he had in Detroit.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to use the old cliche, but what choice do I have? I mean, you talk about Hollywood ending, but to see Stafford potentially get that in LA, the second year in a row that the game has been played in the other home stadium. We've had how many Super Bowls? And then 2 in a row playing in the home stadium. Although there was a game, I think the 49ers played in the Bay Area, but wasn't it at Stanford Stadium? I think it was.
Yeah, it was a Rose Bowl.
Right.
No,
And then
it was at Stanford. I went to that game.
that was at Stanford. Then I believe then the Rams played Pasadena, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Rams played Pasadena, I believe against Pittsburgh Steelers. I want to get into all that, but that's not like they haven't played in the general area. So, all right, Rick, what is the one thing that everybody else should go out there and look for in this football game that you may have overlooked the first time we had this conversation?
I think it's going to be about experience. Joe Burrow's a young guy, and he's just starting his career, where, Stafford is like almost at, he's 34 years old. He's played 13 years in the NFL. So he's a veteran. So I think it's going to come to experience. I think it's going to come to hunger, because Stafford, as Mel said, spent many hellish days in Detroit. I have always been a Stafford fan. I just said Detroit's just an awful franchise. They have awful ownership. And I think Stafford is going to have a big game. I have him as my MVP. And I have them winning. And Joe Burrow probably go back to another Super Bowl. We'll who knows? I mean, he looks fantastic. He probably will get comeback player of the year. And so I just think it's going to be about experience against youth. And I think Stafford's got all the experience, and he is just wants to prove to all the doubters out there that I am a top quarterback, that I can win the big games, and that you're going to see me in the Super Bowl. And I think that the Rams are going to win and win big. And I just, Stafford will be the MVP.
All right, Kevin.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've watched Matthew Stafford. I mean, Detroit and Buffalo can feel the same pain. All right. For years, I always, and, like for me, I remember when, Cleveland finally won the NBA championship. I said, that means that the Bills, and I told friends of mine in Detroit that they can one day win, because it's like, the mistakes on the lake. Right. But, I would like to see Matt Stafford win, and I like Joe Burrow. I don't think Joe Burrow has to prove anything to anybody. I think he, that national championship game when his senior year was probably one of the best games I've ever seen anybody play. That guy was just on it. And I enjoyed watching him that year. I'm a Tennessee guy myself. I mean, I graduated from UT, but I thoroughly enjoyed watching Joe Burrow his senior year. But it's not his time. I mean, and I still think they have weaknesses in their team. I mean, they've come a long way going from worst to first and being here. But the Rams have McVay and their staff have put together a team specifically to win this game. I mean, to get to this point where they're at. I mean,
Yeah,
they
they're-
are engineered to be there, and they are.
Yeah,
So I don't see anything personally getting in their way. But
Yeah,
that's
they're very well prepared, judging by everything I've heard. Steve, now I'll ask you guys one more question, then we'll wrap it up. Steve?
Yeah, really quick. You know what I'm looking for in this game? You know, we talked about the quarterbacks. I think there's going to be a really big pass completion by Johnny Hecker in this game.
Hmm.
I see that happening. I know that, you know, the Rams aren't shy about going forward on fourth down. I can see it early in this game, them being forced to punt and Johnny Hecker completing a big pass, keeping the drive alive.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase fare in this contest. I think that's one thing that we're all looking for. So I'm going to ask
Well,
you guys.
I think if the Bengals are, you know, if they're going to pull the upset here, I think if the guy that needs to have a big game, well, actually two guys, it'd be, you know, Joe Mixon and T. Higgins, because I think the Rams are going to try to take away Chase. So I think Higgins is going to be the guy that has to step up in the passing game, and they need to run the ball to slow down that pass rush. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Joe Mixon. There's a guy, to me, again, Oklahoma has a rich history of running backs, and he's just the latest in a long line. So one easy question, okay? Then I want an either or answer with no elaboration. Mel, we'll start with you. Who's under more pressure to win this game, Matt Stafford or Joe Burrow?
Matt Stafford, and because I mean, this team was built. They went and got Matt Stafford just for this particular reason, and so yeah, it's without question Matt Stafford is under the most pressure.
Rick?
Matt Stafford. No one picked the Bengals to get this far. They're the Cinderella team. No pressure on them. It's all on Stafford.
Steve?
Absolutely, Stafford in this one. I mean, for the same reason Mel said. I mean, that's, you know, when they got him, that was supposed to be the missing piece, you know, to get them over the hump. And he's been under that since day one of the season.
Kevin?
Yeah, same thing. Stafford, age, and it's his purpose to be there. But does he feel the pressure? He probably feels it's destiny.
Yeah, I believe it's Stafford too, but I'm going to say one thing about Joe Burrow being in the AFC. The quarterback's position is much deeper there. So will he get there as frequently as we think? Well, not if Josh Allen has anything to say about it. Okay, not a Patrick Mahomes and Derek Carr and Justin Herbert. But, you know, I'm going to go with Stafford because I believe there's a full majority here. But let me tell you, don't sell the quarterback play short in the AFC. With that said, okay, I just want to let everybody know that this broadcast is being simulcast on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeartRadio. You can also see it on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find it at www.southfloridatribune.com. And you can follow us here at Tribune South on Twitter. And you can also email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. I'll get my information out there first because there seems to be a great deal more of it anyways. And since I picked on Instagram, I might as well say that South Florida Tribune has an account there as well. So with that said, Mel Farr, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Get a hold of me on all the social media at Mel Farr Jr. And you can find out what we have going on here in Atlanta and also up in Detroit at melfarr.org.
Okay, Rick Curti.
You can contact me on my website at www.charlottebats.com. I'm on Facebook at Charlotte MLB and Charlotte Bats Baseball. I'm on Instagram at Charlotte Bats. I'm on Twitter at Charlotte Bats Baseball. And my email address is cltbatsbaseball@gmail.com. I'm also on LinkedIn under Rick Curti.
All right, Mr. Buffalo Bill, do you want to mention your book real quickly?
No, I don't have to mention any book. Just if you ever see me, when you see me at the Bills game, all you got to do is let me know. I'll spray ketchup and mustard on you, and we'll jump through a table on fire together.
There you go. And as I mentioned before,
Okay.
I met Kevin Wenke through the Gold Coast School of Insurance, and obviously we hit it off pretty well. He had to put up with me an awful lot in class, so I got to give the guy credit. But now I'm the guy who's teaching him the ethics of how to do this stuff. So now it's teacher and pupil role reversed. With that said,
This is
Mr.
like a
Bell,
karate movie.
whatever you call it, whatever you want. But the movie we have tonight is the Super Bowl edition here on the Sports Exchange, and I gotta hand it off to my right hand man, Steve Balestrieri. Let him know how they can reach it, buddy.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at SteveB7SFG. I write for PassFans.com. I'm also a national security columnist for 1945.com. So if you're into politics and military affairs, you can find me on there. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, all that other happy horse stuff.
And just, you know, I meet a lot of people on social media. I met Steve Balestrieri on Twitter, and Rick Curti wanted to appear on a broadcast of mine talking about the Charlotte Bats. He's a huge contributor for the Tribune, does a wonderful job with the social media. And Mel, you're a great friend. I'm proud to have you on. You're my star running back. And Kevin, well, now you had a chance to be a part of the crew on arguably.
I like it. I appreciate the offer, and I you know, let's have a great game. And you know, I mean, we do have a chicken wing crisis right now,
Yeah.
and you know,
Sorry.
I'm working on that too. By the way, everybody, that's a whole nother story. But I am working, and you know, you talk about security. I got some people that you probably know on this too with me. But we're going to solve the chicken wing crisis.
The price is ridiculous right now.
No, I know. You know, even here, you know, there's restaurants that don't have them.
Well,
That's-
that breaks my heart, but I'm not worried about chicken wings on Sunday. I have some other alternatives that are pretty good since it's around Valentine's. And for all you women that are out there that are listening to this show, happy Valentine's to you as well. So forget the chicken wings. Go out there and have a great Valentine's dinner. And meanwhile, we'll see who's
buffalo
feasting
wings.
on who here. Okay, whether it's the Rams feasting on the Bengals or vice versa. But I know one thing, we'll have two wild animals battling each other, a Bengal and a Ram, and we'll see which one is a whole lot tougher. Left me wide open for that analogy. But meanwhile, on behalf of Mel Farr Jr., Rick Curti, Steve Balestrieri, and our special guest, Kevin Wenke, this is Scott Morganroth. Thank you for joining us on this edition on the Sports Exchange. This is our Super Bowl edition, and we will catch you the next time. Good night, everybody, and God bless, and enjoy your Super Bowl weekend. It's a big holiday. Get a taste of it. Looking forward to hopefully having a great game. Good night, everybody.
Awesome.
Good night.
Good night.